The question everybody wants to know, Jack White. Where did you first meet Jack White?
Okay, so I started working with Jack White. It was a producer and rapper from Detroit, Michigan named Black Milk.
Mm-hmm.
At the Dilla transition, Black started working with Slum Village. He produced a lot of their music. And how I met Black Milk was I became the live drummer for Slum Village at the Dilla transition in 2006. They got some opportunities to play at some shows where you need a live band. Essence Festival was one of the shows that we got a chance to play, and Black Milk would open up for Slum.
Oh, wow.
And I remember making an impression on Black. Black was like, man, if I ever got a band, I want to use Slum Village Band. So Black Milk actually ended up taking Slum Village Band because Slum wasn't really doing much, but Black ended up using us. I recorded with Black Milk on this project called Album of the Year. It came out in 2010. And this is a story that I think I was told. There's a rock and roll sample on one of the tracks called Deadly Medley. It features Royce da 5'9". And from what I was told, Jack got excited when he heard that song. And at the time, Jack was doing these like 2-song 7 inches collaborations through Third Man, which is this label that he have in Nashville. Uh-huh. Black Milk got invited to come to Nashville. And I remember, I think I heard that Jack offered to use Nashville musicians, but Black was like, "No, I got my own guys I use." So big shout out to Black Milk for bringing us, because had he not done that, who knows? So Black, invited us to come be a part of his recording. We had a recording at Jack's home studio, and the following day we did a concert at Third Man Records. Third Man is so dope. They have a green screen performance room where they do concerts, and we do this performance. I knew Jack was a drummer, but I'm just like, okay, not trying to fan out or whatever. And I do this drum solo, and I remember the DJ that relayed the story to me next day. After that drum solo, we heard somebody go, "Yeah!" And I heard it. Jack got excited. Went back to New York. A month later, I got an email from his team that Jack was asking if I would come to Nashville. He was doing a collaboration with RZA. And wanted me to play drums on that collaboration.
Sick.
And I was like, "What? RZA is a hero of mine." You know what I'm saying? And so Jack, they flew me down, to Nashville from New York, and got in the studio, got ready to record. RZA canceled the session. He was filming movies at the time. I think it might have been
American Gangster
or Bill. What was it? Ill Bill.
Oh, Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. He was a part of. And so he had to cancel, and I was heartbroken. Jack felt bad. He didn't want to send me back to New York. He was like, "Well, I got a couple solo songs we can work on." So we ended up still working for 2 days. We recorded like 2 to 4 tracks that we recorded. And I remember going back to New York, and the rest of the year goes by. I'm like, man, I wonder whatever happened to that music that I recorded. And so at that time, I was playing with 4 artists that was a part of me, paying my bills. Like I was Talib Kweli, was a Brooklyn rapper. I was his musical director and drummer.
Wow. I
was in Black Milk's band, and I had started playing with a producer in New York named Ski Beats. Mm-hmm. Ski produced Reasonable Doubt, some of Jay-Z's first record, like some of those big hits. So Ski had a band called Senseis, which I was a part of. That house band with Dame Dash. Damn. So I was, and then I played with
founder.
Yes, and I played with Daisy Joplin. So I had 4 artists that my schedule was booked 6 months to a year in advance already. But at the time, I got an email from Jack's team, and they were inquiring about my availability for like 6 months to almost a year. I'm like, man, what's going on? And then I said, I got a couple tours. I'm trying to decide on which one I'm going to do, because Talib Kweli had an album that just came out called Gutter Rainbows, and he wanted to tour with that. And Black Milk was trying to tour, and they both were trying to tour at the same time in the beginning of the year. So I told Jack's team, like, I got a couple, situations I'm trying to figure out which one I'm going to do. And then Jack emails me directly, and he was like, "Those tracks you played on are going to be on my solo record, Blunderbuss. I have this vision of using everybody that was involved to do a tour, and I want to tour with 2 bands." So it turned out to be a blessing. I didn't know that the music that I recorded with Jack White would eventually be on the solo record. I played on Trash Tongue Talker, and I played on one of the B-sides, but yeah, that was his first solo record.
That's sick.
So that's how that whole thing started with Jack.
Mentally, what was that transition going from hip hop? Pretty much 90% of everything you've done was hip hop oriented. then moving into Jack White, who's the most creative guitarist, songwriters, just artist. He's an artist. What did that feel like mentally? Were you like, can I do this?
Man, you know what's a funny thing? I almost didn't do it.
No shit.
Because I'm loyal, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, by me having my position with Talib Kweli and Black Milk, I just, I like to be loyal. I don't like to burn bridges. But to make a long story short, my girlfriend at the time, she was like, yo, do you know who that is? I didn't put the two
White
and two
Stripes.
together. Yeah, I didn't put the White Stripes. I didn't put them two together. But when my girlfriend played at the time, when she played me that Seven Nation Army, I was like, I know this song. She's like, yeah, that's who you going to work with. So I almost didn't do it. I almost like not did it, but it just worked out because Kweli ended up getting the DJ to do most of that tour that he was trying to do, and that opened up my availability and working with Jack White, and it's been a blessing. And what I liked about the situation was I did feel a lot of pressure because I know Jack is a drummer, and I feel like when we started rehearsing for the tour, I was like, man, I need to be on my P's and Q's, you know what I'm saying? Because he's a drummer, and then he had all this material, but it eased my troubles when before we rehearsed, he was like, I play to the drummer. I want you to bring your vibe to what I'm doing. So he gave me the go ahead, I hired you, because I want you to bring your world into what I do.
Yep.
And me coming from the hip hop, being in that circuit for over a decade, it was just a blessing where I didn't have the pressure of trying to be Meg or Patrick that played with the Raconteurs. But I made the decision to respect the original composition because I know that when people go to concerts, they want to hear those Meg Wright beats.
Yep.
And I just had to figure out a way to add my swag, and that's what I did. I would just add my swag in between, and I would respect the original beats as much as possible.
So you do the 2 tracks, then you start a tour, right? So it was only the 2 tracks, then you go on tour with Jack. What was the live setting like? What was same set list every night? Were you switching things up? Kind of got routine for you, or were you guys creatively thinking of like, let's close with this tonight? Or
So the craziest thing, and this is the first time that I've ever been in a situation like this, we didn't have a set list. We just had to learn. I think the catalog had to been 60 plus songs deep. This last tour that we did, we were 100 songs deep. Whoa. We had a book almost 100 songs. But at that time, I think he just wanted us to learn all the material from the catalogs, talking Raconteur, Dead Weather, White Stripes, and now the solo record. So he wanted to just be able to us to, whatever he's feeling for the night.
Yep.
And we had to be listening, and sometimes we making stuff up on the spot.
Wow.
We jamming and we making stuff up that we never played before.
That's cool.
It was cool because it made it interesting.
Exciting.
It didn't get boring. It made it exciting. It was definitely, on your pins and needles because it's like you don't know what's going to happen, and you have to be listening to his riff. Or sometimes he would come whisper, whatever the track that he felt like was good to play.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but it was still all of those things, like not knowing, sometimes knowing, or listening to what he's like the captain of the team, and we watching him for the play.
Yeah, he's so good connecting with his fans too. He really is an amazing performer. Obviously, he's an artist, a songwriter, musician, vocalist, everything. He's just a creator of being experimental. But he really, when you see him live, he knows how to connect with that audience, and that's such a big thing of live performance.
Yeah, one of the things that I appreciated what he did was, when he started out with the White Stripes, it was just him and Meg, so they both were front and center.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, I want you front and center. Like normally you would see the drummer in the back. Everybody else is in the front. He was like, nah, I want you front and center. So he put me in front of the stage right next to him and built everybody else around us. He was like, I play to the drummer. So I give him props for doing that. And that also helped, build my status and showing people what I do in that type of environment. It exposed, what I was doing in the hip hop community, in that rock environment.
That's what he wanted. We were talking earlier. It's matching brilliance with brilliance. He wanted that hip hop bottom end to these records, and he's probably looking for that. And then when you came on his radar, I was like, I want that guy.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful. He's worked with a lot of great drummers. Patrick is killing drummer. And Carl Lazard. Everybody's just worked with. But I'm glad that I was able to just be myself. And I feel like I had to be anybody else. That's
everything, too. And, Jack's himself. This is him. He's not mimicking anybody else. You're not mimicking anyone else. Being yourself. You're good enough,
And with the setup, too.
Yeah.
You could have been like,
What the hell going on here?
Yeah, he allowed me, but for me, like when I'm working with any artist, I'm going to get the tools I want to try to get the tools that's needed. So I did have to add more drums to my setup.
Yeah.
Because some of those records, like the Rack on Tours, they would have like a marching drum. So I added like another drum, but I still had the angles.
Yeah.
But I just, wanted to service the music and have all the tools, to do what I can.
Highball stepper. That just nice. Revs me up. What's the song for you when you're touring the world with Jack White that you just get excited about? You're like, all right, I'm
That's a good question, son. Ooh, man.
I mean, Lazaretto. He hits that solo, and you got that amazing, iconic fill right there.
Thank you. And I played on the original record, so any of those records I played on.
I know.
I enjoy playing those because my vibe and my energy. I can replicate that.
Yeah,
that's a really good question. But I enjoy playing Highball Steppers.
Do you? Nice.
That's a cool record because it's a lot of different
you're
turns. There's a lot of dynamic things happening.
When you guys are in the pocket and he looks back at you, and it's just a groove you're so binded together. Speaking of Lazaretto, which is probably in the top 3 greatest mixed songs ever.
Ooh, dang.
I mean, seriously, Vance Powell, who was very instrumental in starting this studio we're in now, Blackbird. Were you blown away when you heard the mix on that?
I was. It sounded like a hip-hop mix. I'm like, yo. When I came to Nashville, it was just known for it being like country, rock and roll thing.
Sure.
And I'm always nervous about like working with engineers here because I'm like, I don't want a country mix. I don't want my stuff to be tucked. I need to hear that bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Or I don't want a rock mix. I want my drums to sound like hip hop drums. And Vance, he nailed it.
Yeah.
And just being able, even our live shows, whoever they get the mix, they always pay. It seemed like Jack was like, you got to make sure them drums is that get.
That's what he wanted.
That boom bap. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Vance is a beast. I actually got a chance to work with him. A couple of tracks I did for Slum Village record. Yes.
Really?
Vance recorded those.
No way.
Yeah. Yes, man. I love Vance, and I just appreciate that he can get them drums knocking. You know what I'm saying?
Big
And
time.
give it that boom bap what it needs, and there's other people that do it too. But yeah, I was really impressed. Really impressed and surprised. I was surprised and impressed.
What was your approach tracking that in the studio? Because you have so many cool fills, and did Jack give you free reign on that? Like,
well, that Pacific song was inspired by MC Lyte, and this has been spoke about. MC Lyte,
famous female rapper.
The famous female rapper. She had a song called Cha Cha Cha, and my drum fill is definitely the same drum fill that they sampled. I can't remember where the original drum fill the fill was sampled from.
Yeah.
But that was definitely inspired. But we just played our own. We made up our own rendition. I just played it with my flair. And I feel like my flair and my style, it incorporates like playing with the DB as like being an MPC. With that bottom heavy, that oomph. You know what I'm saying? So that was my approach. Definitely on that record.
Where did you guys do that at? What studio?
At Jack's home studio.
Oh, for real?
I think the only things that were tracked in other studios were the record that he put out before his latest one, the one that Carla was on. I was on a track in the interlude, but I think that was the first time that he recorded in other studios. He normally solo stuff he normally does at his home studio.
Being comfortable is everything. I wish I had a studio at my house.
All the goods, you know what I'm saying? And it's your sound.
Yeah.
It's a specific sound that comes out of that room, and it's about being consistent, having that consistent sound. So by me being able to bring my swag and my style, I'm gonna find a way to make it saucy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like this past tour that we did for the Fear of the Dawn, I was like, man, I really want to start playing the Meg songs, like really honoring those grooves, and I just stripped it way down. versus the first tour that I did, I was really loose. I did a lot of the mixed up, but I was super loose. I was playing more fusion. But this time around, I was like, I really want to service and give, because I know that's what the audience want to hear.
Yeah.
They want to hear what they heard on the records. And but I think what gave me a lot of my additional sauces was adding those sample pads and the more drums. This is my first time on this tour that I feel like I have a rock and roll kit, because rock and roll kits, from what I've seen, they were always big kits, monster kits. Yeah. Talking 2 and 3 bass drums, China cymbals, and mad, just like a whole bunch of drums. So this is the first time where I have a lot of drums.
Nice.
Versus just having a snare drum, floor tom, and an additional snare like my hip hop setup.
Yeah. Hey, have you met Meg?
No.
Really?
Never met her.
She never came to a show one time, just backstage, say hi once.
Not that I know of. Okay. I mean, I love her work, and I mean, I feel like that White Stripes vibe. It reminds me of hip hop. It's that boom bap, you know what I'm saying, yes. And the glitchy, that whole glitchy stuff. Not always being on. I can appreciate what definitely what they did for sure.
As I said in that Joe Ciccarelli interview, there will never be another White Stripes, And there will never be another Jack and Daru setup. I mean, it's just that's being individual, creating something new, songwriters doing something different. Like you were inspired by something, and it's all a derivative of something, but doing something completely different is, I know the second I hear it, too. If it's a song, a drum piece, even listening to you just set up in the kit, which we're going to go in there in a minute, it's just different. It's something different.
Man, I appreciate it. I mean, I definitely want to give praise and shout-outs to everybody that inspired me,
Yeah.
Because I feel like my style is a tribute to all of those people. So all of those things, it's like a tribute. It's like it's a piece of me. Like that DNA is a part of what I do. And
when you're doing Saturday Night Live on February 25th for the third time with Jack, it's massive. What does that mean to you as a player, a kid from Michigan that grinded his way up, was involved in all these different projects, and now you're on Saturday Night Live?
I'm humbled, lost for words, because, in this journey, you just never know how things are going to pan out. I'm just grateful. Yeah. The first time that we did it, which was crazy because I had to go on the radar. This is when I made the transition, was deciding on which tour I was going to do. I went missing because we prepared for the tour. I think we rehearsed for like a month. But when people saw me, that's the first time they saw us. They saw me be performing on SNL with Jack in 2012.
Yep. So
that was huge for my career. I've always wanted to be on the show. And then we did SNL during the pandemic. But I was on my way to the gym, Planet Fitness, and I get this, like we I'll get text messages, but I get a FaceTime call this time. And Jack never does that. And he was like, "What are you doing? Where you at?" And I was like, "I'm in the mall. Let me call you back. I'm about to go to the gym." And then I went in my car and I FaceTimed him back, and he was like, I got asked to do SNL. Something happened with the artist, but Jack got the opportunity. He was like, "Can you accommodate me on this?" And I was like, "Wow!" It was crazy because when the pandemic was around and we had to go rehearse, it was like a last minute, like 3 days before the thing.
Oh wow!
So it was like I hadn't been playing with Jack like that in a while, like a few years, and it was crazy. It was intense.
You guys played Lazaretto.
Played Lazaretto, and we played. We started with the track that he did with Beyonce for Lemon.
Oh yeah,
You lose yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Started with that, and then we went into Ball and Biscuit.
Sick.
And even that Ball and Biscuit, a lot of that stuff we were making up at the last minute, at the very last minute. Like I remember growing up as a kid, and people being like, "Man, one day you're going to get that chance where everybody's going to see you." That was the moment in my career that I thought that would never happen, because I feel like personally we get little breaks. I don't feel like there's like ever one big break, but that was the break that I had been told about as a kid. Like I feel like everybody was at home during that time. They saw that show. I was getting text messages from like my heroes, like Vinny, Will Kennedy, wow. Mike Portnoy, like people like that I look up to was like saw that show, and I was like, oh my God, it was so dope, for my career, and just that moment was just a moment in history. That specific SNL show was crazy.
You just got to be grateful and ride the wave and don't question and just keep being you, doing you.
Man, and it was a guitar player that had just passed away And,
Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen,
Yeah.
and on that Lazaretto, the breakdown, he kind of did like a little. Oh, he actually used one of Eddie's guitars, and then on the Lazaretto breakdown part, he did like a little guitar. You know
That's
how
awesome.
Eddie, yeah, like a little riffing.
That's more than the Grammys did for him.